Making time for witchcraft in the modern world can feel like a delicate act of weaving, finding ways to thread your craft through the busy tapestry of work, responsibilities, and the ever-present demands of modern life. For the traditional witch, whose practice is deeply rooted in rhythm, relationship, and lived experience, the challenge is not only in carving out time, but in ensuring that the time you do spend is meaningful and aligned with the heart of your path. It is easy to imagine that the craft requires hours of uninterrupted ritual, remote wilderness settings, or rare ingredients to be effective. But in truth, much of witchcraft, especially when rooted in traditional ways, can be integrated into the everyday flow of life. The first step is recognizing that witchcraft is not separate from daily living. The modern witch can bring their craft into seemingly mundane tasks, infusing them with intention and awareness. Preparing a meal becomes an act of kitchen magic when herbs are chosen not only for flavor, but for their protective or healing properties, stirred with deliberate focus on the desired outcome. Sweeping the floor can become a ritual of banishment when done with purpose, visualizing the removal of unwanted energy alongside the physical dirt. Even walking to work or tending to household chores can be moments for quiet attunement to the land, noticing seasonal changes, listening for birdsong, or greeting a familiar tree or stone along the way. These small acts anchor your craft in the ordinary, turning life itself into an ongoing spell. In a world where time feels fragmented, the traditional witch can benefit from aligning their practice with natural cycles rather than fixed, rigid schedules. The moon's phases, the turning of the seasons, and the weather patterns of your local environment offer organic prompts for practice. You might find that you don't need to perform a full ritual every lunar phase, but instead choose 1 or 2 moments each month when the timing feels right and your energy is truly present. This approach is more in keeping with older ways, where magic was done as needed in harmony with the land and the moment, rather than to satisfy a preset calendar. Being attuned to these cycles means that even when life is busy, you are still walking in step with the energies around you, ready to act when the signs and circumstances align. One of the most powerful ways to make time for witchcraft is to allow for stillness, even in small doses. Modern life encourages constant movement and mental noise, but much of the craft relies on the ability to listen, whether to spirits, to the land, or to your own intuition. You do not need an entire afternoon in a forest to do this. Even 5 minutes of mindful breathing in a quiet corner can become a sacred act. Lighting a candle before bed and sitting in silence while it burns, speaking to your ancestors while waiting for the kettle to boil, or standing barefoot on your balcony under the night sky are all ways to root yourself in the moment and reconnect with your path. The reality for many witches is that their practice must coexist with work schedules, childcare, and the countless interruptions of modern life. This is not a weakness or a dilution of the path. It is an echo of how witches have always worked. Historically, witches were often deeply embedded in their communities, tending to their families, their fields, and their neighbors while practicing in the margins of the day or under the cover of night. The modern equivalent may be quietly charging a charm while commuting, whispering a protective blessing over your loved ones as they leave the house, or gathering magical ingredients while shopping for groceries. These subtle acts are not lesser forms of magic. They are the craft in its most enduring, adaptable form. Making time for witchcraft is also about making choices. In a world saturated with distractions, it is easy to lose hours to scrolling or passive consumption. Choosing to step away from noise, even briefly, creates space for your craft. This might mean waking a little earlier to draw a sigil in your journal, setting aside one evening a week for more focused work, or replacing some digital entertainment with reading folklore, crafting tools, or simply sitting in nature. Over time, these small decisions accumulate, and your practice becomes not something you squeeze in, but something that shapes the rhythm of your days. Above all, it is important to remember that the craft is patient and enduring. You are not in a race to master it or perform grand rituals on a strict timetable. Witchcraft, especially in its traditional forms, is about relationship and connection, both of which are built slowly over time. Even if life sometimes allows for a few minutes of dedicated practice, those moments are seeds. With consistency, they grow into a living, breathing current that flows through your life regardless of how busy it becomes. The modern witch does not need to retreat from the world to practice deeply. They only need to recognize that the world itself, the daily tasks, the passing hours, and the shifting seasons, is the very fabric of the craft. By approaching each day with awareness, intention, and a willingness to engage with the magic that is already present, you are making time for witchcraft in the truest sense.